What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Leo coming to you guys with yet another video, coming to you guys today with the 10 best NXT champions of the Black and Gold era. I think we can all agree that for NXT, the Black and Gold era was like the peak of NXT. It never mattered what show was coming on the day after NXT TakeOver. NXT TakeOver was always that highlight of that weekend. Like, what if it was WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series? Every time NXT would put on an NXT TakeOver, they would knock it out of the park every single time. And then when we would crown a new NXT champion, mostly all of the champions that we pretty much got to see went on to have great reigns as NXT champion. And that's why I think the NXT championship still currently holds a little bit of weight, just because of prestige that it holds. For the championship and the people who've held it in the past and whatnot. But we will get into this video right now. Make sure before we get into the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also comment down below who are some of your favorite NXT champions of all time, whether it be for the men's division, tag team division, or women's division, all that and stuff like that. And we'll have a discussion about it in the comment section down below, but we'll get into the video right now.
Show could look like under Triple H's command. The men and women on this list have all gone on to vastly different career paths, but wherever they are now, they were on top of their game when they were holding on to championships in WWE's third brand. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best NXT champions of the Black and Gold era. Number 10, Bo Dallas. It seems appropriate to open this list with Bo Dallas, as his time at the top of NXT was a
I forgot about Bo Dallas being NXT champion at one point.
Moment of clarity.
Did you guys enjoy his reign? Or for those who pretty much been watching NXT for a long time, do you guys remember NXT, or for Bo Dallas, do you remember his NXT championship reign?
For the promotion. To recap, Bo Dallas was a third-generation wrestling prospect that the company picked as their developmental system's next golden boy. However, the cheery cheese of Dallas's babyface shtick was a little too forced for most people. Thus began a story that showed the earliest inkling of NXT's potential, facilitated by the fact that Full Sail University was a small and devoted audience. To show their disinterest in babyface Bo, the crowd quite literally turned their back on him. Whilst Dallas's opponents in Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn were no slouches, his greatest feud was with the homegrown audience. It allowed Dallas to really show his range. He became a spoiled brat who—
The fact that this man literally said his greatest feud was with the crowd, that's just a different level at that point.
He thought of himself as inspiring, but was really just an egotistical nuisance. He carried the NXT Championship at the height of his pomp, and Full Sail fans clearly had a riot hating him, which came across on screen. Whilst previous champions Rollins and Big E are absolutely nothing to be sniffed at, Dallas's time with the title represents one of the defining gimmicks of NXT's early developmental days. Number 9, Sasha Banks. It goes to show just how many great champions NXT—
Remember what Paige did to the championship? If you know, you know. I figured after they did that, they probably would have came up with a different design or made a new championship altogether. But they kept her around for probably about another few 2-3 years and whatnot. So, hey. But I do agree with Sasha Banks being on this list. I think she is one of the better NXT women's champions that we've had in recent memory, for sure. So I definitely would have to have her on this list, because her matches that she had with, the Four Horsemen, when she won it, and then when she had that match with Bayley, I think it was at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, I believe. That match, I think that was like one of my first times actually watching NXT, if I'm not mistaken. Well, for the pay-per-views. I've watched the shows, but the pay-per-views I kind of always would miss for some reason. But this was my first pay-per-view that I got to watch, and this match really brought me full on to NXT going forward.
He had that the boss enters at just number 9. Don't take this placement as a slight against Sasha Banks. She was at the forefront of one of the most important moments in WWE history when she got her hands on the NXT Women's Championship. Whilst the company bleated constantly about creating the Women's Revolution in 2016 by swapping the Raw Women's Championship every 2 weeks, in actuality it all began at NXT the year previous. No better is this proven than NXT TakeOver Arrival, where Banks claimed the Women's Championship in the only ever 4 horsewomen fatal fatal 4-way in history. And naturally, Banks' time as the boss with the belt was sublime. She would have overshadowed lesser competitors with her innate skill, but as it so happened, she had a stacked roster of opponents to craft magic with: Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and a breakout performance for Becky Lynch. More than that, the match where she finally dropped the belt after her 192-day reign is often regarded as one of the best women's matches of all time. Sasha Banks versus Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn was a statement.
Easily one of the best matches in women's history, I think, in my opinion. Easily one of the best.
That the WWE had changed and the boss was at the forefront of it. Number
It's everything you wished for. Your site traffic is skyrocketing. Until this happens.
8, Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa might be one of the most...
When he turned heel, everything changed. This man came out to no music just to be shadowed and boos. No one has, that I know of, has been able to do something like that. And people start to get behind him quickly. And as soon as people started getting behind him, I think he got injured. And then when he came, well, he was a babyface, I think, right before he left. And then, well, when he kind of relinquished it kind of made him a babyface in that scenario. So.
Decorated men in NXT, former tag team champion and multi-time NXT champion, and more than just shiny props, he was also the representation of one of the show's greatest eras. After the betrayal of former tag partner Gargano, Ciampa would walk to the ring with no music to smother himself in the boos of Full Sail. But his devotion to the brand and its championship, who he lovingly referred to as Goldie, made him hard to hate. Fans were broken-hearted when an injury saw him relinquish Goldie and fear for the future of his career. And when he finally returned to NXT's title picture, it was as the Old Guard, a steering commander of the brand as it faced imminent, worrying, and luminescent changes. The Psycho Killer represented the last great bastion of black and gold when he finally left NXT, so much so that on the way he dropped the belt to Bron Breakker, a man who had just taken a chainsaw to the show's previous logo. Subtlety, thy name is Bron. Ciampa did it all in NXT, including a truly excellent run as champion. Number 7, Kevin Owens.
I do know that, as of right now, when we're recording this video, he's still injured with the hip injuries. Hopefully he does come back, and it's still telling what he's gonna do on the main roster, but who knows, maybe he might start a feud with Johnny Gargano again, and we'll get to see that play on the main roster for those who really didn't watch NXT like that. And if people who did, we know when these two step in the ring, we're gonna get an instant classic every single time. I feel like we look back at different feuds that have taken place over the years, like John Cena and Randy Orton, and we've seen Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We've seen Triple H and Shawn Michaels, just to name a few. We've seen these feuds happen, and I do think when you look at NXT, I believe to an extent I will want to say that this is like this generation Shawn and Kevin Owens. Not Kevin Owens, Shawn and Triple H. My bad. But Shawn and Triple H. So I believe these two definitely, hopefully they get to do a feud on the main roster, or maybe with the draft coming up, they might get split or get dragged to the same brand, and maybe who knows, we might get to see them team up again and reform DIY. I think that is something a lot of fans would love to see as well. Either one of those scenarios, I would not be mad at. Either they reform the faction of DIY, or they start a feud. And maybe it could be over a championship like a US or Intercontinental.
The former Kevin Steen entering the company gave rise to the first wave of suspicion that Vince McMahon had no idea what Triple H was doing down at Full Sail. Steen was indie-tastic, and his body shape was so outside of Vinnie Mac's mould of almost exclusively Greek gods, not to mention that his merchandise was emblazoned with Kill Steen Kill. This was arguably the only real edge that WWE...
And I think here's the thing, when you look at NXT call-ups, a lot of things that kind of go in our minds is like, will they get over? Will they, be able to hold the same weight that they did in NXT, or will they be let go? Because in the recent years, we've seen NXT people or people from the NXT roster come up to the main roster and get lost in the shuffle and pretty much be turned into jobbers. But I think with Kevin Owens, it's a completely different story, because he literally came to the main roster or made his debut on the main roster as NXT champion. And not only did he do that, but he started a feud with then United States champion John Cena. And then they had a feud going into Elimination Chamber, and he picked up the win. When I seen that and I seen him pick up that win, I literally told myself, yep, he is a made star. You beat John Cena, one of the very best on that roster. You're pretty much a made star. You're pretty much going to have a lot of opportunities in your future. And he did. He pretty much went on to hold the NXT Championship, beat John Cena. Then, he dropped the NXT Championship, but went on to win the Intercontinental Championship that same year. And then, he lost it, but he got it right back. And then in that same year, in 2016, he became Universal Champion. And since then, he's held the U.S. Championship numerous times. And just a couple weeks ago, he became Tag Team Champion. He is a Grand Slam champion. So I think when you look at his career, yeah, it might have had its ups and downs here and there, but for the overall, from the overall longevity of it, he pretty much is a made star. And he's main event of WrestleMania. So, it speaks for itself.
WWE shaved off as it became Fight Owens Fight instead. The character was still a selfish, ruthless warrior, and he proved on his first night that he was the same man as ever by brutalizing the newly crowned NXT champion, his former friend Sami Zayn. Owens wasted no time planting his flag, claiming the promotion's top prize by stoppage and becoming the most despicable villain in NXT to that point. Whilst his reign was only 142 days, Owens left a huge mark of legitimacy on the title. The most impactful moment of his run happened on Monday, May 18th, 2015, when the prizefighter appeared on Raw to answer John Cena's open challenge. It was unfathomable. Cena lay prone, Owens stood tall, holding his championship aloft and stomping on the United States title. The NXT champion would go on to beat Cena cleanly, and whatever else happened in that feud that we'd like to forget, it was a declaration at the time that Black and Gold had arrived. Number 6, Shayna Baszler. Looking at Baszler's pitiful main roster run is painful. For the most
She was one of the most dominant NXT Women's Champion in history. And, when she went to the main roster, she started off okay, but then easily went down and hasn't been able to recover since then. And on SmackDown, she's pretty much supposed to be with Ronda Rousey and going after the tag titles, but we don't know about that. We'll have to see.
most part, she's been another cog in the machine. In NXT, she basically was the machine.
Exactly.
Charlotte Flair and Shayna Baszler, at the time of writing, are the only women to hold the NXT Women's Championship more than once. However, the Queen of Spades grip was something else entirely.
Yeah.
Between her two reigns, Baszler has 548 days, making her the woman who, if you were to tune into any given episode of NXT, you'd be most likely to see hold the gold. But it wasn't just that she did it, it was how. Baszler was a legitimate MMA powerhouse, and she was presented as such. She was also a passionate wrestling fan. She might have been a tad greener than some of the indie stars that NXT was starting to fill up with, but Baszler was committed to learning, and she got better and better, and also nastier and nastier. Putting down babyface heroes with the Kirifuda clutch, Ember Moon, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and more fell to her ability to always overpower and shut down her opponent's offense. Dropping the belt to Kairi Sane for a paltry 70 days in the middle of her run doesn't stop her from being the final boss of the women's division for almost 2 years. Number 5, The Revival. For a good number of years, NXT put on clinic after clinic.
Literally one of the best tag teams in the world right now. Not just in NXT, not just in WWE, not just in AEW, but in the world right now. One of the very best tag teams in the world. And it sucked, like, you know, they were in one of the biggest companies, and we all felt like they were going to get their just due, but they never did. And you know, they held the NXT tag team titles, I think, about twice, and then, you know, went on to the main roster to hold the Raw tag team titles, and then the SmackDown tag team title. I mean, yeah, they hold every tag team title in WWE, but still, it never really meant anything because WWE never really cared about tag team wrestling like that, or never really wanted to put any type of investment into the tag team division at all. And they were huge advocates for that, and it sucked that they never really could get their point across. But I mean, luckily they found greener pastures, and they're in AEW doing their thing. So, but I think one of my favorite feuds for the Revival had to be DIY. I think one of my favorite tag team rivalries.
clinic when it came to duos. American Alpha, Breezango, Mustache Mountain, DIY, the list goes on, and almost every group seemed to have fantastic chemistry with their opponents. However, there is one team that was just on another level every single time they stepped between the ropes, and it's really no surprise that they are recognized as the best around today. The phrase "no flips, just fists" was cool, but it betrayed just how versatile and talented the Revival truly were. Any doubters found themselves with their jaws on the floor as Wilder and Dawson connected with every team on the roster in exciting ways, crafting matches with edge-of-your-seat sequences and false finishes. The Revival's simple gimmick fit snugly into the role of consummate professionals who had no time for horseplay when a lot of NXT's babyface teams were at least a little wacky. They were the ideal foil for American Alpha and the Vaudevillains, putting an end to their respective reigns to claim the tag belts. Their combined run of 306 days puts them in the top 3, but their brilliant 2 out of 3 falls matches could easily be some of the best tag work in NXT history. Number 4, Pete Dunne. The NXT UK Championship tournament ended with Tyler Bate as the inaugural title holder, but the true star was Pete Dunne. As such, it really was no surprise that he got his hands on the prettiest title in all of NXT in quite short order. Dunne was instantly a fully formed character and vicious player worthy of...
He is, like, I think for those who didn't really watch him, go watch his match that he had with Walter. That match, I think that was in 2019, I believe. I think that was NXT TakeOver New York, I believe, or something like that. Comment down below, I might be wrong, but I think it's NXT TakeOver New York in 2019. It was right before WrestleMania 35. But that match was very great. I love that match from start to finish. And I really was watching NXT UK. I was, but not too much. But it made me watch more of it after seeing that match. And it sucks that, he did. I mean, when he went to NXT after leaving UK, I thought he was going to become NXT champion, North America champion, and the only thing he really held was the tag team titles, and that was really it. So it kind of sucked that's the only championship that he got to hold in NXT. But now he's on the main roster, and apparently he's supposed to be going back to his Pete Dunne gimmick. Hopefully that is the case, because I would love to see what he can do. I don't know which brand is going to pick him up. Me personally, I would love to see him on SmackDown. Who knows? But I understand why people would say Raw, because it gives people more time. But you see how that goes. People aren't really getting time as the same people, so I can care less.
Of swinging that belt from his teeth. The Bruiserweight was deadly and threatening, not just because he delighted in cracking the bones of his opponents, but because, going by his disinterested shrug, it was all he cared about. The NXT UK title didn't have a lot of champions in its time, but it did have 2 pretty prominent ones. Despite Walter holding the belt longer by a not insubstantial 200 days, in fact, he did so during an awkward time with the pandemic restricting the champion's appearance. As such, it's Dunne that often comes to mind first. And whilst Dunne had his own small absences, he was the perfect player to build NXT UK around. With a year of NXT USA to build his rap sheet, as well as indie appearances at the likes of Dub X Dub and Progress, Dunne gained an unstoppable aura that made him a star attraction across WWE and the wider world of wrestling. Number 3.
I hope he's a top star. I hope he ends up being a top star. I hope he does.
Finn Balor. There was a palpable sense of excitement and disbelief when Balor came to NXT. The promotion had signed indie darlings already, but to bring the former leader of the Bullet Club over from Japan was stunning. Not only is he part of an elite crew of men who have held the title twice, he also did it in 2 different decades as 2 different characters. Balor's first run as the Demon felt cutting edge. Around this time, NXT didn't really have a ton of strong gimmicks and much in the way of production values. It also didn't have that standout babyface that was needed to topple Kevin Owens for the title. Balor's first reign lasted 292 days, the second longest in promotion history, and he became the face of a prospective next generation. Fair to say things didn't work out on the main roster, however, but he returned to NXT in 2019.
It's a good thing.
Starting out as a heel, Balor was forced to turn face due to the audience's overwhelming adoration for their returning former star. Still, he played a more intense and dangerous character who shocked the world by capturing the NXT Championship for the 2nd time. Whilst his second run wasn't nearly as strong as his first, his presence made a huge difference, adding luster back into a brand that had lost some of its steam. Number 2, Asuka.
That man! What's up? Hey, cash back 1.5% on everything you buy.
Can we get off its ass?
On everything you sell.
Honestly.
Comprende? On part of who?
Come on.
What?
Cash back like a pro with Chase Freedom Unlimited. How do you cash back?
Yo, come on. I hate these two as I'm gonna have these.
It's safe to say that NXT fans were not ready for Asuka.
Nope.
When the truth came out about the former Kana signing with WWE, there was a lot of talk comparing her to that of Bull Nakano in 1994, the last female Japanese star to sign with the company. And with all respect, Asuka came into NXT and instantly began to blaze her own trail. Dana Brooke was her first victim as she cleaved a winning streak unlike any other. Though Asuka's mic time was limited, she was mesmerizing in every spot she was put in. The Empress of Tomorrow's presentation was an impenetrable wash of colour and unpredictability. She got over fast, and it was only a matter of time until Asuka held gold. Taking the title away from the departing fan favourite Bayley, her time had truly begun. At a recognised 522 days, Asuka's reign is the longest NXT Women's Championship run of all time. More to the point, she famously never lost. Even when she was injured and would...
She never lost it, and she's pretty much one of the longest reigning champions of all time. Probably one of the most dominant women. I think the most two dominant women in NXT history is Lily Asuka and Shayna Baszler. Easily.
Eventually move on to Raw, she left NXT as an unbeaten whirlwind of power and suspense. Her run wasn't always perfect, but to leave a promotion in such a spot, beloved and looked back on as fondly as those 17 months were, speaks volumes about the importance of Asuka as NXT Women's Champion. And number 1, the Undisputed Era. It really couldn't have been anyone else at number 1. With their powers combined, the Undisputed Era are the most decorated group in NXT history. Within their first 2 years, the debuting Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish recruited a fourth in Roderick Strong, got their hands on the NXT Tag Team Championships, and Cole became the inaugural NXT North American Champion. At the end of 2018, Adam Cole laid out the undisputed prophecy. All 4 members would be draped in gold in the following year. At TakeOver 15, Cole picked up the NXT Championship, setting an example that his stablemates would follow in the coming months. When Strong's North American Championship, the final piece of the puzzle, fell into place, it was a sight to behold. The jewel in the crown, of course, was Cole as the top dog of the company and the leader of this charismatic...
Just imagine if Triple H was to take over, like, back then, when, you know, their contract was about to come up. Imagine if you kept them around and they were on the main roster getting booked properly. This would be one of the best tag or feuds, or I mean factions, on the main roster right now. Imagine the feud that you can have between them and the Bloodline. Imagine them facing the Judgment Day. Those feuds would be top tier must watch. And it sucks that, I mean, you know, Adam Cole, he's doing his thing in AEW. I don't know what really Bobby Fish is doing. I think the last time I heard about him, he was in Impact, but I don't think he's there anymore. Kyle O'Reilly, I really hope that I wish they would have pulled the trigger on him and made him NXT champion, but they just never did. He's in AEW, but he's injured. I don't know when he's coming back, and I don't know what Roger Strong doing. He's still in WWE, but I don't know what he's doing. He might be injured or maybe waiting on his contract. I don't know what the whole deal is on that. Who knows? But if you guys know anything that I don't about Roger Strong and his status in the WWE, let me know.
Frat house of a stable who set a record with the longest NXT Championship reign at a stunning 403 days. However, each man was incredibly talented, contributing the finest matches of what some believe to be the last great run of NXT Black and Gold.
Yep.
Whatever the case, it's a feat that is unlikely to happen again anytime soon.
Yep.
And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments.
Yeah, there's no telling. I mean, we've had some solid, you know, great champions. I think one of the very best that kind of peaked since the Black and Gold era kind of went away, for me personally, is the current champion right now, because he pretty much just shined the entire time, even though he wasn't NXT champion at the time, that being Carmelo Hayes. Outside of that, it's really like, you know, we've had some great champions, but it still really doesn't compare to the lineage of the champions we've seen during the Black and Gold era. We've seen Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn. We've seen Adam Cole. We've seen Aleister Black, Tommaso Ciampa. We've seen these great champions, and it sucks that we really don't really get to see that as much with the Black and Gold. I wish they kind of would bring it back, but I know they kind of went a different route with the whole Nickelodeon thing, and they finally got away from that. Now it's more like a white and gold type of thing. We don't know if the white and gold is gonna live up to like somewhat of what the black and gold era was. I think that's kind of what they're trying to go for. Only time will tell, but there's no telling, like I said. But that is the end of the video. You guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel. If you are new, hit the post notification bell so every time I post a new video. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. We're so close to that milestone, so keep running up the likes, the comments, and all that good stuff. Keep liking the video because it helps my video get out there so more people can see it. So please help me out with that. Let's get this video to 4 likes. Let's get this 4 likes. Also, comment down below who are some of your favorite NXT champions of all time, whether if it was for the NXT Championship, the Women's Championship, the Tag Team titles, North American title. Let me know all that down in the comment section down below. We'll have a discussion about it. I love having dialogue and conversation with you guys about different wrestling topics in the comment section. So please, feel free to do that. And yeah, that is the end of the video. I appreciate you guys kicking it with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.